About now. Good morning, everyone. Happy Thursday. I'm the Grace Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Thursday, September 28th, 2023. What do we have coming through in the cards for today? May I please have the first 5 cards in our 5-card spread? First card we are starting our day off with today is Queen of Wands in its reversal. You may have identified one of the, and I need to stress this, we are now seeing the masculine and the feminine reflecting out of each other. What did we get yesterday? We had the masculine in their King of Wands in their reversal. Now we have the feminine in this vibration. Partnered energies, the feminine energy is picking up a little bit of what the masculine energy is putting down at this time. We did recognize yesterday that there may have been some friction points that came through between masculine and feminine energy in partnership at this moment. Feminine energy, maybe not necessarily seeing or receiving the communication and partnership that they may have ideally been desiring or dealing with. We did see that a lot of that reason for that had to do with the fact that the masculine was dealing with some circumstances and situations outside of the partnership itself that were making them feel somewhat disempowered and overwhelmed. Feminine energy may have been at a point right now that you either recognize this in the masculine energy, even your own approaches of trying to communicate wasn't necessarily meeting the point that you would ideally desire, but essentially was reaching some point of friction. And this is effectively the feminine now coming into that vibration that they found the masculine in. So feminine energy is also having some frustrations right now as it relates to communication, as it relates to planning. These are all situations and circumstances the feminine may be trying to address today as they go forward from this point. Masculine energy that is in partnership with feminine at this time, you may now be picking up that some of your own reticence yesterday may now be leading to a little bit of that reticence on the part of the feminine at this time. One of the things that may have been had to be articulated yesterday that we saw that was potentially happening for the energies in partnership was masculine effectively trying to communicate to the feminine that the reason that the masculine was feeling so triggered was not necessarily due to the feminine, had to do with something completely beyond the feminine energy. This is a feminine energy that they're still potentially trying to articulate this to. You may be experiencing right now that the feminine is feeling a little bit of this overwhelm because they felt like they potentially had to do a lot of this for themselves or by themselves yesterday. So there may be some complications in the realms of communication and planning right now as it relates to the feminine energy, even if you are in partnership right now, masculine. Now, masculine energy that is coming into partnership or partner energies that are moving into union right now, this is to do with a lot of the complications that we effectively saw was happening as it related to what the masculine was communicating to the feminine yesterday. Because we did see that for the feminine and masculine energy that are moving into union and partnership at this time, there was a need from the feminine for the masculine to disclose fully, to open up, to give the information that the feminine has been seeking. Masculine that's moving into partnership at this moment is doing this work with the feminine, but masculine was also recognizing potentially yesterday that some of the things that they were sharing was effectively requiring or causing the feminine to withdraw. We even recognized that there may even be a point yesterday where the masculine was like, "Are you okay?" And feminine was like, "I'm okay." But they weren't necessarily okay because it had more to do with the fact that feminine was receiving what they asked for. Couldn't necessarily say that they didn't desire that, but it apparently has been a lot for them. And we see that this is almost masculine recognizing and seeing that it has led to a little bit of this withdrawal on the part of the feminine, potentially even some anxiety right now from the masculine, wondering what the feminine is thinking because the feminine doesn't seem to be as articulate about these things right now. Masculine, if you're trying to move into partnership with feminine, this may be you trying to get to the bottom of this today. Feminine, this is effectively the articulation of how you're feeling, which is, again, you may have gotten a lot of information yesterday from the masculine that was a little overwhelming. You couldn't necessarily say anything about it because you asked for it. I warned you, if you were feminine and you asked the masculine to open up, you couldn't get into that space or place where suddenly you started reacting because of something that you asked for here. This is feminine energy potentially feeling like they're caught in a bit of this pickle because feminine energy is now trying to navigate how they're feeling about what they're receiving from the masculine, but they're not necessarily sure what to do about it. Now, for the masculine and feminine energy that is in separation, this has to do with where we find these energies right now. Masculine right now, potentially, one of the things that we saw, well, first, but let's start with feminine, actually, because feminine is a little bit easier here. Feminine energy right now is effectively being very cautious in terms of what they're saying. I even warned for a lot of the feminine energy right now that's currently in separation to make sure that you were utilizing and moving from a state of intentionality yesterday. Because I did warn that if there was communication towards masculine energy, if you were in separation, it might not necessarily have been the most productive communication. You may have even kind of been saying things towards your own view or perception of the masculine as it relates to how you're feeling at this time. This is feminine energy effectively either, again, if you did have a little bit of that moment, if you actually allowed this to be a point of potentially non-positive communication that occurred yesterday, this is potentially you effectively recognizing how that effectively left you. For the other part of the feminine energy right now that's in separation, this is potentially this moment that you may be identifying that is feeling very difficult because there's something that you want to communicate on, but you aren't going to let yourself. This is a feminine energy that's effectively restraining themselves from communicating with the masculine energy, specifically because, firstly, you're probably feeling extremely triggered right now and you know that something you say isn't effectively going to help the situation. Or two, you are reaffirming to yourself that this is not something that you want to drag the masculine into right now. You want the masculine energy to effectively approach you at this time, which is why you're also potentially refraining or restraining yourself from communication at this time. Now, masculine energy that is in separation at this moment, this is effectively you potentially putting some consideration back towards feminine at this time. You will notice that for the masculine energy that has been in separation up until this point, there has been this moment of doing this internal journeying, really asking yourself, what is your heart's desire? What is it that you're truly seeking at this time? Many of you may have even been questioning what partnership looks like, and do you even desire partnership at this moment? There was a bit of a light bulb moment that effectively occurred for some of the masculine energy in this vibration yesterday, and this is either resulting in one or two different scenarios. This is potentially right now an observation or understanding in terms of why the feminine energy may be feeling the way that they feel. This may even be building this clarity because as you do this recognition of the self, you can effectively understand why the feminine energy may have been confused as well. Because if you didn't necessarily know what you wanted, how could the feminine energy know what you were wanting? This is potentially either, again, this deeper recognition and understanding, if you're moving away from something now, that's building a point of catharsis because you can understand the feminine energy's point of view. This is more of that Venus in retrograde work that we saw that the masculine was learning and building towards, that you're continuing forward from now that Venus has gone direct. For the other part of the masculine collective, this is going to be a bit of a problem area. Because what are the things that you may have landed upon yesterday was that you now recognize what your heart's desire is. You may even recognize now the energy that you want to move towards. But whether they want you to move back towards them is the question of the day. Because this is effectively showing that there is something here around the feminine energy and your own ability to communicate with this energy that is in need of serious repair. So this is the masculine energy either looking and acknowledging why the feminine's here as they continue forward, or trying to ascertain what they can do or whether this feminine energy is going to be receptive to communication. Second card coming through in our 5-card spread for today is, we have here 10 of Pentacles. This is good. This is some nice productive energy that we are seeing right now, particularly for the feminine who effectively needs this right now. Where's feminine energy getting this point of like easement right now? Feminine energy is feeling frustrated. They're feeling blocked. They're feeling like their communication channels are not working internally the way that they would ideally desire them to. Feminine energy is navigating this by leaning on the supportive circle of influence around them at this time. This is the feminine energy drawing support from these areas. This could be a lot of feminine energy right now, reaching out to those around them to help them through any of these hurdles or any of these difficulties that they're experiencing. Now, masculine and feminine energy right now that is working in partnership or are in union right now, we are effectively seeing that the feminine energy is potentially, again, doing a lot of work right now in external spaces, potentially even plans outside of the relationship at this time. Why? Because feminine energy recognizes right now that there may be something that the masculine can't necessarily give them right now in partnership at this moment. But we appreciate this because this isn't necessarily a feminine energy that's holding against the masculine. They're simply looking for other avenues or spaces or places that they can feel that level or degree of support right now. Feminine could potentially be recognizing right now that the masculine energy is feeling a little overwhelmed, feeling a little overburdened, may have even had some trigger points yesterday. So feminine energy is basically giving the masculine energy a bit of space today to help them through this as they themselves go through their own internal trigger, because something about that may have effectively triggered the feminine yesterday, seeing the masculine in that vibration. Masculine, This is, again, you potentially having to put a lot of work right now in a lot of things that you've got currently happening right now. This is a lot of energy around the masculine right now. As I said, the masculine's focus right now, even in partnership, is not necessarily on the partnership itself, but taking care and making sure that there's a lot of productivity occurring. This is helping the masculine energy right now that is feeling that sense of overwhelm. We saw that the masculine energy in partnership was even potentially feeling that there were some situations and circumstances beyond their control. This is how masculine energy is trying to get control of things again, by putting all of their effort and energy on those outside spaces and places. But you're also potentially recognizing that it's having a little bit of an impact as it relates to the feminine energy right now, right? So this is the point that the masculine may be feeling a bit torn, even in partnership, because it's like, you know that the feminine energy might be taking a little bit of frustration and offense to the fact that you're not fully present, but you're also not willing to abandon this right now because you feel like this is kind of something that is necessary, but also is supportive to the partnership itself. Now, masculine and feminine energy that is moving into partnership at this moment. This is a bit of that sense that is happening in terms of the feminine energy trying to wrap their head around what the masculine energy has effectively told them at this time. We saw that masculine and feminine energy were having to recognize right now the fact of understanding. This was a feminine energy that basically made it conditional to masculine energy, that if they wanted to come into partnership at this time, they were going to have to be open. They were going to have to be fully open. They were going to have to disclose everything. They were going to have to put all the cards on the table. Masculine effectively did that. Feminine energy went and balked. Like, that's a lot of cards. And this is that moment that feminine energy is potentially working through, because what is creating the sense for the feminine right now around what feminine's feeling so frustrated on? It's seeing the full scope of things. It's getting the full optics. Feminine energy is ascertaining this right now. There's potentially feminine even wrapping their head around it right now, getting the full picture from masculine about what's going on in their life, what that looks like, what the shape of that is, and it may be leaving the feminine at a little bit of a loss right now, even as they proceed forward from this point. Masculine moving into partnership with feminine, you potentially see that you've done this. You can see the fact that the feminine energy has kind of got the full picture now, and now you're feeling the anxiety because, again, even though this is a feminine energy that may have effectively told you that they would be okay with that they would be all right for you to be open in that way, were they going to stay there? Is that something that happened? Is that something the feminine can do? Masculine is effectively trying to ascertain that right now, and potentially even recognizing and seeing that the feminine is a little bit tight-lipped as they try to get the full picture on something. Now, masculine and feminine energy that is in separation right now, very different experience, because what we're effectively seeing right now is this is feminine energy that is feeling, again, this is either a feminine energy that said something, kind of went off potentially yesterday. There was a potential for a trigger point yesterday around some energy if you're in separation. The feminine energy was either really trying to hold back or may have not necessarily been able to hold back to a certain extent. But what's the feminine doing? Or this is a feminine energy that really, 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 really wants to say something, and you know it's not the right thing to say, and you know it's not going to be productive. So what is the feminine energy doing in response to this? Feminine energy is distracting themselves. Feminine energy is moving into focusing, throwing their time and effort into their circle of influence, into the things that are productive, that are positive. This is feminine energy finding that point of balance right now. Now, masculine energy and separation, this may have happened yesterday. You may have had that moment where even if you're not in separation with the feminine, either you received something back, you got some words back from that feminine. And this could be a moment right now that, again, you are also trying to lean into this right now and potentially move forward from this, having this point of seeing and recognizing. But here's the thing with the masculine that's been doing this right now. Masculine energy that is effectively at this moment, even if you either heard something or got something less positive from the feminine right now, the difference is you probably understand why. You probably are, given the fact that you've been doing so much of this internal journeying, you don't blame that feminine, is what we're really seeing again. And I feel like there's almost something here about potentially trying to smooth things out to a certain extent, recognizing that the feminine, understanding completely why the feminine energy may be reacting or responding in this way. Now, for masculine energy right now in separation, as we identified, this is either leading into one or two different modalities to a certain extent, because this is potentially even masculine energy that moved away from something that was moving into a level or degree of seriousness that masculine was not necessarily ready or prepared for at this time. This is masculine energy, again, having that moment, either recognizing and understanding why the feminine energy has closed you off to such a degree right now. getting support in that outside environment as you navigate that. Or this is that work, and this is the moment for the masculine energy, and I did identify this. This is something very important to point out in mind with the masculine energy and separation at this time. Some of this masculine energy, you effectively decided that you're not necessarily in a space or place that you want partnership at this moment. This is why, while you are recognizing and understanding this, you're also effectively choosing to move forward in a lot of productive ways right now, because this is the work that you decided to commit yourself to yesterday. Recognizing that this is kind of that moment that you're choosing your own work, you're choosing your own productivity against partnership at this time, maintaining that level and degree of autonomy. Now, for the other part of the masculine collective, this is a bit of a trigger or challenging space, because what could potentially be happening is some of that light bulb moment that you may have had yesterday may have been around a feminine energy. The problem is, if this is a feminine energy that you've decided was your heart's desire, you may be feeling like that energy is blocked off, is closed off. You're not sure if the feminine energy even wants to speak to you or is even receptive to you. You may be doing some work today to try to identify and figure out what the case is. This is almost masculine energy potentially looking towards some feminine energy today that they're not sure where they are, to try to ascertain, because now it's the feminine masculine energy focusing that this is the direction they want to move into, but there's a blockage here as it relates to communication. Center of the deck for our cards for today is, center card please. We've got here, everybody knows what they want now. We've got here our Four of Cups in its reversal. So this is productive. This is positive right now for the masculine and feminine energy that's in partnership, because this is that point in terms of unified goals. Masculine and feminine energy that are taking new approaches in partnership right now. This is what is allowing for some point of readjustment and realignment. You'll even remember that a lot of the work that we saw that the masculine and feminine energy in partnership right now has been doing has been recalling their energy so they can put that energy into new opportunities, new experiences, new pathways that they're moving on towards together. Masculine and feminine energy in partnership right now, this could be a lot of that work that we're effectively seeing that's happening right now. Even this moment right now of feminine having like this point of not necessarily like chasing after the masculine in this way, but like moving away into like another productive space could be the solution or the different stance that the feminine's taking at this time as it relates to new approaches to handling any kind of disputes or difficulties in the partnership itself. It's effectively creating this room for the masculine energy to be able to do the things that they need to do. And this is feeling like a little bit of a potential sea change. Now, masculine, you may be effectively identifying this right now with the feminine energy, that you're focusing right now a lot on trying to come into a state of easement with outside situations and circumstances. You are feeling a little bit more distance from feminine. You may even be recognizing and acknowledging right now that feminine energy is moving away from you to a certain degree. But what we appreciate with the partnership energy is this doesn't feel like a separation point. This just feels like a little bit of a change in tactic to be able to navigate some difficult circumstances or situations. This is leading to new productivity because this is a different approach. Now, for masculine and feminine energy that are moving into partnership right now, this is having to embrace the new approach here. Because one of the things that we identified for the masculine energy that's opening up to the feminine in this capacity is you may not necessarily have done this before to such a level and degree. Masculine taking this choice to fully show the feminine everything that is effectively occurring right now in their life, all of the connection points. This is a moment for masculine that feels like a bit of a different approach. And masculine is recognizing and understanding that this is something that they haven't necessarily done before. The anxiety, the difficulty is the vulnerability it makes them feel around the feminine, because it's really kind of looking to the feminine right now to ask themselves, is feminine going to be receptive to this, or is feminine going to effectively go back in terms of what they said, in terms of being accepting and accommodating to it, and is effectively going to close off as it relates to this. Masculine energy is effectively watching the feminine in this capacity to make sure that the feminine is not necessarily doing that. Feminine, for your part, is effectively trying not to do that. Feminine energy is trying to look at this to make sure that they have the full picture so that they can consider how to go forward from this point, because there is something potentially that did feel somewhat overwhelming. It did trigger the feminine from what is being opened up, or the level that masculine is opening up to this degree. But feminine energy is trying not to let this be a reactivity point, recognizing that feminine effectively asked this from masculine, and this is also a part of the new approach. Now, for masculine and feminine energy that is in separation, this is feminine energy taking a new approach. Again, that constant confirmation, that affirmation that feminine is giving to themselves right now, not to go back to spaces and places that are not giving back in kind, recognizing and not wanting to have to chase after masculine energy that is not receptive to divine union. This is that moment that feminine energy is putting their time and their effort and energy, and potentially having even said some things about it yesterday that you may now feel a little bit about. This is also a moment right now that we see that the feminine is throwing their energy into their sphere of influence, the area, the energy around them, everything else to help distract them. And this is the difference. This is the change that feminine is effectively making, because this is a different approach that is difficult for the feminine, but is also recognizing that this is what's allowing for new productive possibilities. Feminine is almost like throwing themselves back into the thick of it instead of going back to the past. Masculine, again, if you are in separation at this time, this is effectively that moment that, again, either you are recognizing that there's something here. You may have even experienced some like hostile energy from feminine yesterday if you moved away from partnership over the last few days. But again, you are trying to distract yourself. You are trying to move forward. You're trying to recognize that you're keeping your focus potentially on the possibilities and more tangibles in your life right now. This could be that moment that masculine choosing to stay in a point of autonomy as opposed to coming into union and partnership at this moment. This is a bit of the new approach that you're effectively taking, because one of the things you may be identifying right now is while you are recognizing that you are doing this, you are effectively seeing that you are doing this. You are understanding it. You are seeing a cycle within you. There might even be a moment right now that you are recognizing some repetitive patterns that are occurring right now. And this is that moment that at least you're having that point of consideration as you do so that you necessarily can effectively understand how you want to potentially break it going forward. Now, the other part of the masculine collective right now in separation, this is potentially, again, for some of the masculine collective, this was that moment of assuming that you wanted to stay in autonomy, focusing on your projects, your path, your goals. The other part of the masculine collective, this is potentially that moment you had a light bulb moment in terms of identifying and recognizing who you effectively wanted to move back towards at this time. This could even be a moment right now that you're potentially recognizing that something about that energy is no longer accessible or available to you, or you don't know if communication is even possible at this moment. This is a moment that we see that you are effectively potentially doing a little bit of busy work today, if you're in this vibration, to try to ascertain where this energy is, if this energy is receptive to communication. And this is that moment right now, because you yourself are also recognizing patterns. You potentially even understand why this feminine may be somewhat resistant or reluctant to you at this time. This is you trying to see if there's a possibility there of having some point of restoration potentially. Fourth card in our 5-card spread for today is 2 cards coming out for our fourth card. We love this right now, but it's going to feel a bit triggering. These are going to be triggering today. This is difficult. This is showing right now the fact that even for the energies that are in partnership at this moment, there's a lot of abandonment wounds that are potentially rising to the surface right now. Being in partnership, being in divine union is very triggering, because it leaves you feeling extremely vulnerable. You know, you're like naked. You know, it's like it leaves you feeling extremely vulnerable. Okay. Now, for masculine and feminine energy that is effectively going through this right now, because again, we see the fact that masculine and right now, even at a point of partnership, has to put a lot of energy in outside things and spaces and places. It's causing some communication hurdles with the feminine that's feeling a little bit less seen, especially yesterday, potentially even some like lack of communication, or maybe even some friction in communication from a feminine that was potentially moving towards masculine that was pretty much distracted and feeling a little overwhelmed, or trying to like work through some things that they feel like they were kind of powerless to do anything around. This is that moment that, again, even in the partnered energies right now, we see the fact that there is some triggered abandonment wound energy coming to the surface. Masculine potentially could see the feminine moving away from them at this time, trying to give them the space that they think that they needed or identify that they potentially needed yesterday. Now is causing a little bit of an abandonment wound triggered here. Feminine, you're already potentially feeling a little bit of that abandonment wound based on where you were left yesterday in partnership with a masculine that may have had to put this time and energy into outside projects as opposed to the relationship. So you are also feeling a little triggered and abandoned. Energies in partnership, be very kind to each other today, because this is that moment that, again, This is either going to feel like a supportive environment and partnership where you're talking about your vulnerabilities, you're actively expressing them. The partnership itself is supporting you as you work through these triggers. For the other part, there could be a possibility of some triggers being hit today, even in partnership. So make sure that you're being very kind to one another today and recognizing each other's triggers if you're in partnership at this time. Masculine and feminine energy that are moving into union and partnership at this moment, this is the trigger having been hit. This is the anxiety, because we saw here that this was a feminine energy that effectively asked the masculine energy to be open, to be fully expressive. And now we are almost seeing a feminine energy that masculine is doing so at this moment, and it's making you balk a little. It's making you flinch a little. It's making you pull back a little. You've got the full picture on something. The problem is you don't necessarily know what to do with it now. For the feminine energy feeling this right now, this is that moment that, again, you're feeling that balance between the fact that the masculine open to you to this capacity is almost affirming and confirming that there is some possibility of divine partnership here. But at the same time, it's really triggering an abandonment wound. Because something about what's being revealed is very hard to experience and understand. It's making you feel somewhat underseen. It's making you feel somewhat undervalued. You may have some feelings about it that you're trying to tamp down right now. This is feminine energy navigating this space from within, even if you're trying to come into partnership right now. Masculine, you are potentially also experiencing this. For some of the masculine energy right now, there might even be some dual work that's effectively happening right now, because we see that this is a masculine energy that's effectively opened up to the feminine right now. Showed them everything that they effectively could. This has been a new approach, but you're recognizing that it may have caused the feminine energy to get a bit pull back a little. You're seeing that. And this is what's difficult for the masculine right now, because masculine is effectively trying to articulate to the feminine that the reason they opened in this capacity was because they desire union with the feminine. But they're also feeling the abandonment wound now, because they're afraid that now that they've revealed or opened up in this capacity and degree to feminine, the feminine will effectively potentially choose to walk away. So for masculine and feminine, again, if you're moving into partnership at this time, this is also some hairy terrain that needs to be addressed today. Masculine and feminine energy in separation. This is some of that work. Feminine energy is feeling extremely triggered right now, because feminine energy is effectively trying to, again, they're either feeling that anger or frustration around someone that they feel misled them as it relates to partnership. There's a focus right now on divine union that feminine has. Feminine energy may have even said something that wasn't necessarily positive yesterday to masculine energy that they feel was misleading them as it relates to the possibility of union at this time. The other part of the feminine energy, this is effectively that confirmation, or really trying to white knuckle through not communicating around something that you're feeling this on, potentially even distracting yourself in outside circumstances or situations to get your mind off of it, taking this new approach for yourself. But it's really hard, because you're feeling very triggered. You're feeling very wounded. There's a desire. You're focusing right now on the desire and the capability of finding divine union here. But at the same time, you're having to navigate the space and place that you feel like something was effectively left you out in the cold. Now, for masculine energy right now that's working in separation or is in separation, this is effectively understanding and recognizing and seeing this on the part of some feminine energy that's around you. For some of this masculine collective, we see that you potentially had to walk away from something that you saw was moving into that deeper union that you decided you did not want. Feminine energy is potentially, if feminine energy responded in a negative way to you yesterday, you may even understand why. There's almost a clarity that you're building here in terms of seeing yourself in yourself that's been happening over the last few days. And it is difficult. For half of the masculine collective that's doing this at this time, that's because you're making the intentional choice not to move into partnership at this time. You're trying to focus on your projects, your path ahead, but in autonomy, at a point of autonomy. And you can kind of recognize and understand why the feminine's coming back at you like this, or has completely closed themselves off to you. You're trying to assess, effectively understand, and see your own patterns. And this is difficult because, again, you are weighing divine union against an abandonment wound. You're questioning, again, whether you desire partnership or whether you want to kind of continue to move forward in a state or place of autonomy. There's something here that feels somewhat triggering because you're seeing the abandonment wound effectively coming into action, effectively masculine energy potentially walking away from divine union or divine partnership, but you're seeing it now. It's something observed, is something that can be worked through. The other part of the masculine collective right now, that light bulb moment was not necessarily on your own autonomy. It was potentially on recognizing who or what your heart's desire was. This is potentially a moment right now, masculine, where you're recognizing the energy that you want to effectively be in divine union with. The problem is that something potentially around this right now does not necessarily show the fact that communication is very open between you and this energy. There may even be an uncertainty right now if this energy wants to communicate to you or is available to communicate to you. This is masculine energy that if you're in this vibration, you're potentially even doing some busy work right now to try to understand where this energy is, because you are effectively now recognizing your own abandonment wounds from the past that prevented you from coming into divine union. You're now ready to do this work. You're making this choice. But the problem is with the direction you're moving towards right now, you're not sure if they're going to be as receptive to it anymore, because now you've got perfect crystal clear understanding as to why things are the way they are, or why this energy is in the way that it is. You understand the modality now on a very internal level. Fifth card right now in our 5-card spread for today, before we start getting clarity on these cards right now, is King of Swords in its reversal. There's a lot of anxiety that's effectively coming into play right now for the masculine energy at this moment. Masculine energy, even if you're in partnership right now, there could be some feelings right now that you're just feeling kind of run down and exhausted. Masculine energy right now in partnership, we've been seeing that you've been doing a lot of busy work right now, keeping a lot of balls in the air. This is a lot of you doing a lot of this work today to try to get things done. And it may just be requiring the masculine energy, not necessarily having the energy to put into the partnership right now because of all of the demands outside of the partnership at this moment. For masculine and feminine energy in partnership at this time, this could even be the feminine recognizing that this is the case right now. It is feeling like it's triggering a bit of an abandonment wound here, because feminine energy potentially is feeling anxiety towards a masculine energy that they see is in this expression. And masculine, for their part, is potentially seeing the fact that the feminine is potentially moving forward and doing their things on their own right now because the masculine's so busy. But masculine is effectively potentially too exhausted right now to really need to necessarily do anything. You know, they're feeling a little triggered, they're tired, but again, the partnership itself is actually allowing a point for masculine to have a point of rest. This is going to come through a bit more for masculine in partnership right now as a feeling or need for rest and easement today, that the partnership is effectively allowing you. You may even be having some space today. Feminine may be giving you some space so that you have this rest, and that's also something that you may appreciate about the partnership. Now, feminine, this is effectively something that you may be seeing in the masculine right now, that the masculine energy, if in partnership, needs a bit of a rest. You're giving them that space. You're feeling the support in the union as you do so. It's a little triggering for you to do so. But again, you're navigating it by putting your energy in outside situations and circumstances at this time. Masculine and feminine coming into partnership, this is the anxiety point that the masculine was potentially feeling around the fact of what they effectively opened up and revealed to feminine. Masculine feels extremely vulnerable, having opened up to this level and degree. It's very hard for the masculine energy to be in this vibration of putting everything there, creating this sense of clarity for feminine, especially now the fact is that they think that the feminine energy is pulling back from what has been revealed or what has been expressed. Masculine's feeling that anxiety, the wound is triggered. Have to be very careful today, guys. Make sure you're not operating from that trigger point, because again, masculine's trying to articulate the reason they are doing this is because of their desire for union and partnership at this time. Feminine, you could be seeing the masculine at this point. You could be recognizing that this is happening right now if you're trying to go into partnership. The fact that the masculine let themselves be very vulnerable in expressing this stuff to you, but it doesn't make it any less triggering. For the feminine experiencing this right now, you are balancing that question about whether you can proceed forward now with that full understanding, and it is feeling like a bit of a challenge. But again, you are recognizing and acknowledging and appreciating the fact that the masculine being vulnerable in this way has kind of given you some point of confirmation that there is a viability in divine union here. Masculine and feminine energy in separation at this time. This is that point of feminine energy feeling some of the frustration towards the masculine at this time. The reason that the feminine energy may have responded in a non-helpful or productive way to masculine was due to the fact that feminine energy is feeling extremely triggered. Feminine energy, if they approach masculine with the desire or the level of degree of wanting to come into divine union and partnership, and this was a masculine that moved in the other direction, feminine energy is feeling the combination of the abandonment wound with the desire to move into partnership right now that is making them have a very very poor opinion right now on the masculine energy in this vibration, because effectively what we're seeing at this time is feminine energy is looking at the masculine and seeing them as someone who lacks integrity. What was feminine energy looking for yesterday? Feminine energy was manifesting and saying to themselves that they were only seeking masculine energy that was at a point of integrity right now. This is how feminine energy right now, that either like had a reactivity point to masculine yesterday, or as effectively confirmed to themselves, white knuckling, saying something but moving forward with a lot of speed. Feminine energy is effectively confirming to themselves that this is energy that was never in their integrity. That's what's allowing the feminine energy to continue to move forward right now towards partnership, even while addressing their abandonment wound, because they feel to a certain extent that this may be feeling like something that was misleading them or was never moving in the direction that they had ideally hoped or desired. Masculine right now, potentially you are recognizing this right now in the feminine. If you moved away from feminine trying to come towards you with some kind of offer or opportunity of union or partnership at this time, you may be acknowledging and seeing this in yourself. You may be recognizing this in a way that you may not have recognized before. There's something here that if this is happening right now, it's not just the fact that it's happening, it's the fact that it may feel repetitive. This may even not necessarily feel like the first time this has occurred. This is effectively masculine. You've been doing this inner work for yourself. You can see the pattern now. And you can effectively almost have some deeper empathy now in terms of seeing why the feminine energy is in this vibration. Even if they responded the way they did, you can kind of understand it, because now you're getting a better aspect of what the feminine is seeing in this. This is that work through the Venus in retrograde going direct that you did in terms of understanding the feminine at this time. For part of the masculine energy right now, this is a moment that, again, you may even be feeling some feelings of regret or guilt in terms of the circumstances and situations at play, even especially and particularly if you're choosing at this moment your own sense of autonomy at this time. This is masculine energy effectively making that choice for autonomy at this moment, but also potentially understanding why the feminine energy is coming at them like this, or has closed them off to this degree, because you are also feeling that sense of recognizing what has effectively occurred within the self. For the other part of the masculine collective right now, this is effectively you having taken this time, and now you are understanding what you desire. This is potentially now a masculine energy that's ready to come into divine union. But the problem is some of the energy that they want to come into divine union with right now, there could be a feeling that there's something here that is not accessible to you, that is blocked. It is making you effectively feel some fear right now, because again, it's not the fact that you do not recognize what it is that you want to move towards right now. There's anxiety as to whether you can. And this is creating a point that could be feeling very triggering right now, because masculine is doing a lot of work to try to observe and ascertain where this feminine is, but there's a lot of uncertainty in terms of how to approach or how to correct or how to resolve something around some particular feminine energy that you may have a desire to now move into divine union with. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Queen of Wands in its reversal in combination with our 10 of Pentacles. Feminine, feeling some frustration right now around communication, around planning. In partnership, not as difficult. You're just effectively distracting yourself right now. You're potentially having some plans outside the partnership, getting your mind off of things as you work through some stuff right now, recognizing potentially the masculine's not necessarily in a space or place where there's something that you guys can move through or communicate on. Masculine, you're potentially seeing this as well as you yourself are addressing things outside of the partnership. Masculine and feminine energy moving into union right now. This is the feminine trying to deal with everything the masculine's brought forth to them. Masculine, this is you seeing the feminine dealing with this. And in separation, this is feminine moving towards outside things to get their mind off of situations or circumstances that they've either said something that they regret, or they're feeling the frustration of wanting to say something that they know that they shouldn't. Masculine, this is you also either again focusing your energy right now on trying to move back towards a feminine, but trying to ascertain where that feminine is, or this is a moment right now that you are distracting yourself and trying to throw yourself into your work as you consider and realize why the feminine energy has blocked you in this capacity. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our 3 of Cups. getting your mind off of things, points of distraction coming to the surface today. Now, for the masculine and feminine energy in partnership right now, this is going to feel more positive. Again, there's something here that's effectively being recognized that while there are some triggers that are potentially getting hit right now, that effectively for feminine, feminine's recognizing that masculine is just in a point of being very busy. They've got a lot on their plate. Feminine energy to their own degree is potentially putting their own energy outside of the partnership to distract themselves as the masculine energy is in this vibration right now. Masculine right now, you could potentially be seeing this happening right now with the feminine energy. There may even be right now some sense right now of having to tell the feminine energy that while you might not necessarily be able to do something now, you may be trying to build some things in the future to show them that you still have this ability and degree of attention towards them at this time. But for masculine right now, you are feeling like you are being pulled in a lot of different directions. This is potentially feeling almost like a bit of chaotic energy that's coming into play right now, because again, masculine energy is dealing with opportunities that are more just about easement, as well as productivity, and then also having some need or desire to have to communicate to feminine. So this is a lot happening at once for the masculine energy that is in partnership. More of that overwhelm that we may have been identifying and recognizing. Masculine energy that is moving into partnership right now with feminine, this is the issue. This is what is creating that feeling of balking. This is what's creating that feeling. You understand it. You understand why the feminine energy pulled back a little bit. This is why you are feeling resistant to being open to the feminine in this capacity, because being open in the feminine's capacity to this in terms of understanding everything that's on your plate potentially may have had to do with also introducing that feminine to the fact that there were outside energies around you because you're moving into partnership. This is feminine getting the full breadth of everything around you right now. And this is that moment that you may be feeling like you have to do a lot of work explaining to the feminine right now what these situations are, where these situations stand. You could potentially even be feeling this right now for the feminine that's in this vibration, because what we're effectively seeing right now is you're seeing and you understand exactly what this is. Potentially masculine saying this is why I was so hesitant to tell you. I was worried that this is how you would respond. And you're looking right now to feminine to see if feminine is going to maintain or come into that right now. You're really worried about how feminine is going to take what you are telling them. Feminine, you are effectively trying to navigate it as well. And I need to stress here for the feminine energy, there's something here that again has to relate to how open the masculine is here. Feminine energy is basically trying to really ascertain and make sure that the masculine energy is being fully open. Feminine is actually, what we actually like about this to a certain extent is feminine is almost asking the masculine energy here, if you're moving into partnership, to double down. There's questions that they're asking. Feminine energy is effectively coming through their own block right now by trying and needing to have complete understanding of where all of these things lie. And feminine energy is effectively even looking to masculine right now to make sure that they don't start to backpedal. Even as feminine is going through the difficulty of seeing this and experiencing this. This is feminine almost continuing to come forward in this fashion. I will also point out that this could also be a moment right now where the masculine energy is effectively now asking this from the feminine. Masculine energy could potentially also be asking this same level of openness from the feminine right now. And this we need to watch out for here, feminines, because now what we are starting to see is a little bit of reticence. This is now masculine seeing potentially a little bit of reticence on your part to be as open as they themselves have been. So I will stress again to the feminine energy that if you are coming into this point of openness, give as you get. If you ask for it, you better be willing to do so. Masculine may also be saying this to feminine today, which is, I did this, and now, and feminine's so let's make sure that you don't come into that vibration, feminine, because we do see here that there's a bit of this pulling back, and this could even be in the face of masculine asking the same towards you. So fair is fair. Now, masculine and feminine energy that are in separation right now, this is feminine energy completely distracting themselves. This is a frustration of a feminine energy that is feeling passionate blocks. They're feeling that frustration and almost like that passion that they want to bring towards a masculine, but they're not letting themselves because they're not chasing after masculine that does not want to come into divine union. This is feminine energy taking that, maybe even like had a little bit of an outburst yesterday that potentially happened. This is feminine energy channeling this energy into anything outside of them to distract them right now, potentially making plans with those with positive karmic energies around them, finding things to do, keeping themselves as busy as possible, because there's something here that feminine really wants to do or wants to say, and feminine energy is just really holding back on that. Masculine, for your part, you're effectively seeing this right now with the feminine. If you are moving from separation, especially if a feminine energy was trying to move into partnership with you and you pulled away, this is the masculine. You're potentially recognizing that, again, this feminine energy is closed off. Like either they're angry and they've given some kind of outburst to you, or they've just completely closed you out. And again, if the masculine energy that is choosing to stay in a point of autonomy right now, this is you effectively throwing yourself into things right now also to distract you from the situation. This is a moment that, again, you're effectively making this choice, but you're doing it with a deeper understanding and recognition on why the feminine energy is reacting the way that they are. There potentially could even be a moment right now where the masculine energy that you're feeling like this, you're feeling potentially a lot of guilt or sadness around this, but you get it, you know? Now, masculine energy, the other part of the masculine energy right now, this is potentially you having potentially moved away from something, done this work, recognize that you do want divine union, but it all has to do with the person that you want divine union with right now. This could be a moment that, again, you're potentially putting a lot of focus and attention right now towards that energy, trying to ascertain and understand where they are, or even if they want to communicate. Because we see here that there's this potentially something that's happening here where you are potentially recognizing or seeing the fact that, like, you know, you want some kind of welcoming here. You want something to come back here. But you think that there could be some kind of positive here that you can bring in. You're just not necessarily sure right now if this is a feminine that's going to be receptive, because this is a feminine energy that potentially even wanted this from you from some point in the past and you were not ready for it. So this is the masculine energy trying to ascertain where this energy is to see if there's that kind of connection still possible. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our 10 of Pentacles in combination with our 4 of Cups in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy in partnership right now. This is potentially just taking different approaches to things, but like almost immediately seeing the productivity in the process. This is the energy itself allowing. It's like the masculine and feminine energy in partnership right now. It's almost recognizing that you don't need to put as much care into the partnership. You can almost concentrate on things outside the partnership. That is a bit of that different approach, and recognizing that the partnership is still able to like maintain and sustain itself in the process. Masculine and feminine energy that's moving into union right now. This is that moment of being fully open. This is a new approach. Masculine needs to do this right now. Feminine needs to do this right now. It's trying to see if you guys can both do this together, trying to see how it's going to be taken, what you are offering or opening up right now. Okay? Masculine and feminine energy in separation. This is, again, feminine doing everything you can to distract yourself before you say and do something that you know that either you don't want to do or you already did, to masculine that you're feeling effectively let you down in some huge way. Or this is masculine energy right now, throwing oneself into either getting to the bottom of where a feminine energy is to see if you can approach them again, or throwing yourself into your work, choosing autonomy at this moment, but also recognizing your pattern at play. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with communication, thank goodness. For all energy, this is something that is feeling very positive and productive right now. Masculine and feminine energy. If you're in partnership right now, this could even be talking about a lot of plans that are being laid. I pointed out for the energy right now that is in partnership, there's been a lot of this like concerted pulling back right now, pulling back of your own energy. So mutually, so that you can put it in more directive places going forward. This is more of that planning, because while there may be some moments right now that aren't allowing a lot of attention paid directly to the partnership at this time, this is talking about laying those plans in the future that are going to lead to those opportunities to really appreciate and secure the partnership. This could even be talking a lot today about travel, planning, things of this nature. A lot of this like work as it relates to going forward, and a lot of communication in these areas. So this is a lot of productivity that's coming into play. Now, masculine and feminine energy that is moving into partnership right now. This is that moment of saying, where do we go from here? This is that movement of saying, okay, great. Thank you for letting me know everything that's been happening in the time in between. This is where we find ourselves right now. This could be the conversation and saying, what are you going to do different? What is going to happen now? What are you going to tell these people? What are you going to tell these things? What are your next steps? What are we going to do? This is not now moved away from getting that full openness to being like, how are you going to proceed? And the problem that may be happening right now for the masculine and energy moving in partnership right now is feminine's going, what are you going to do about these? And masculine's going, well, you also have to tell me about you. You haven't told me about it. Feminine's being a little reticent right now. And feminine's trying to get masculine to push forward and do all these things. And masculine's looking at feminine and being like, what do you have this too, right? This is that point. So there's a lot of communication today about like the plan and path going forward from here. Masculine and feminine energy in separation at this time. This is feminine energy potentially coming into a space or place right now that we're effectively seeing is requiring some moment. Again, feminine energy is effectively throwing themselves into their own plans, their own opportunities. Maybe even like laying some plans for like future trips or planning today. Anything to get their mind off of some of these circumstances or situations, because we see here that feminine is potentially at a point right now where they want to communicate. They want to communicate, but feminine energy is trying not to. So feminine energy is trying to channel this into the productive spaces, as opposed to potentially repeating cycles and communicating with energy, recognizing that they can't chase after divine union. Now, masculine energy that's effectively in this vibration, again, we see one or two different modalities if you're in separation from feminine right now. This is either masculine, you're effectively understanding and recognizing, especially if the feminine energy kind of like had a moment with you yesterday. Why? You understand why now. You get it. This is your effective choice in terms of staying in a point of autonomy at this time. You're effectively choosing that autonomy over the partnership. And this is now about you kind of laying your own plans going forward, trying to ascertain and decide what that's going to look like. For the other part of the collective right now for masculine, this is potentially that point of understanding. As we said, this could potentially be for masculine energy, not necessarily the choice to move away from partnership at this time, but identifying who you actually want to be in divine union with right now. This could be the masculine, again, doing work to ascertain and try to understand the situation and circumstances around this energy. Also, trying to think of a new way or a new approach on how to open up that channel of communication again. Now, continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Four of Cups and its reversal in combination with our Lovers, in combination with our Five of Pentacles. Partnered energies, this is beautiful. There's a trigger, there's some triggers that are being hit, but again, you're taking new approaches to how those triggers are being hit, which is fortifying the partnership. Masculine and feminine energy that's working or coming into partnership right now. This is a moment that you're feeling very triggered, but something about what is happening right now is also affirming or confirming to you that there is a huge possibility or potential for partnership to occur, because you're seeing the fact that everyone's taking this new, different approach. For masculine and feminine energy that is in separation, this is feminine energy firmly holding commitment to desiring divine union, even if it is triggering, because feminine is feeling the abandonment wound and also feeling they're taking a new approach as it relates to this. Masculine, this is effectively you also taking a different approach. If you're moving away from partnership right now, you're at least recognizing it within yourself. This is a conscious choice that you are making within yourself to recognize that you're moving away, or you have some kind of fear of partnership. You feel like the partnership is something that is going to put you at some kind of serious disadvantage. So you are even repairing your own wounds around partnership at this time, even if you're choosing your own sense of autonomy at this moment. For the other part of the masculine energy right now, this is a deep, difficult problem, because this could be this you identifying that you desire divine union and divine partnership right now. It's a question of whether it's going to be accessible and available to you. May I please have one card to clarify? Oh, High Priestess. We love this card. We love to see this card at play right now, because what we're really identifying and what we're really seeing right now is this is feminine energy allowing their logic and intuition to guide them forward. For masculine and feminine energy in partnership right now. Masculine, this is effectively what the feminine energy brings to you right now in the partnership. There's something about the feminine energy in partnership right now that you may come to deeply appreciate as it relates to the feminine energy's own ability of logic and intuition. We saw the fact that for a lot of this energy right now, while there are some triggering things that are occurring, we don't see in partnership that the triggers are being activated. Instead, new approaches are being taken. This is what the masculine appreciates about the feminine in this capacity. This is a feminine energy that is showing that degree of taking logical approaches to handle triggering situations. This is further empowering the union itself. For the feminine, this is effectively you employing this kind of higher logic, intuitive approach, feeling the security and stability in the partnership that allows you to do so. And it's giving that space or place for you to maintain that higher vibration, that higher mindset, even through circumstances and situations that do feel somewhat triggering. This is that different approach that you yourself are making. Now, for masculine and feminine energy that are moving into partnership right now, masculine, this is effectively what you are really hoping to see in the feminine right now. Masculine, you are recognizing and seeing the fact that like what you've given the feminine or the information you provided the feminine, it feels like it's made you feel very vulnerable. You're very worried about what the feminine's going to say or do now that you've opened up to that degree and capacity right now. Feminine energy is moving into this right now because masculine energy is effectively relying on the fact that the reason that they felt that they could be open to the feminine in this degree and this capacity is because this feminine energy has displayed, thank you for the gift, the ability to maintain a level of composure, maintain a level of logic, maintain a level of keeping a clear head through triggering circumstances or situations. This is what is drawing the masculine energy into partnership with this energy at this time, because they're recognizing that the reason the masculine was able to open up in this capacity is because there's something about this energy that masculine considers unique for being able to maintain this level or degree of ability at this time. Feminine, you are trying to hold into this logic-based approach right now. You're recognizing that you're effectively feeling very triggered by what masculine has opened up and revealed to you, but you're trying to hold in that higher logic-based insight to help guide your path forward in terms of the approach or how you're going to handle things going from here. Feminine energy and separation right now, this is what's maintaining the separation. Feminine energy is locking up the heart space right now. Feminine energy is committing to themselves right now. This is why we see the passion center blocked. This is a feminine energy that is feeling the frustration and anger towards a masculine energy they wanted to move into union and partnership with, that they saw some indication that masculine would not give them that by being forthright and open. Feminine energy is pushing forward, focusing on divine union and holding their higher logic right now through some situations and circumstances that feel triggering, because it's keeping the feminine energy from reacting. If this was a feminine energy that reacted yesterday, this is feminine energy kind of like going cold to a certain extent, allowing that logic to try to guide them forward. And it can feel a little disassociating today, feminine, if you're feeling this. But you also kind of recognize this is feminine energy like going into their mind palace to deal with the fact that there's a masculine that like they would deeply desire to move towards right now, but they're not recognizing the ability of having divine union with. Masculine, for your part right now, this is again a moment that if this is effectively occurring, you may be recognizing that this is happening right now, because this is potentially masculine energy that moved away from a feminine that offered this ability or this desire to come into union. The problem right now with the masculine is that you kind of identify and see from a different perspective, because you see potentially the fact that there's no pussyfooting around this, that this is a feminine energy that has a full grasp of the picture. This is also why you are effectively like trying to work through this right now, because you also see it. Feminine energy may have even brought something to your attention that you had not identified or seen before. And so again, this is that moment that masculine, you may be feeling a little bit of this like regret and remorse at this moment, because there could be something that you're feeling right now around a feminine energy, especially if they said some harsh words to you yesterday, where you may be acknowledging and saying, well, they weren't pretty about it, but they weren't wrong. So that's that point of deeper understanding of the self that's effectively coming into play right now, masculine, if you're making the choice to stay in autonomy at this moment. You're kind of building that point of recognizing that this is a feminine energy that gets it. There's no moving around it right now. There's almost a moment right now you may be acknowledging that if you choose to stay in this vibration, you may have to choose to stay in this vibration. You may just choose to stay at a point of autonomy, but even doing so is going to require you making some adjustments in terms of how you do it. Because something here about a cycle that you've been repeating is no longer working. It's requiring that inner work right now to figure out where do you go from here? Because there may be a moment where you now realize and recognize that the only way forward from here is to have to articulate to feminine exactly how you feel about partnership in order to potentially move forward in some degree. And that may be some of that recalibration, having to articulate to the feminine that you might not necessarily have the desire to be in partnership. For the other part of the masculine collective right now, this is that moment that you're feeling a lot of anxiety potentially coming into play, because what we're effectively identifying right now is the fact that for some of this masculine energy right now, this wasn't you moving away from a partnership because you chose autonomy. This was you moving away from a partnership because you realized that there was some other energy you wanted to be in divine partnership with. And this is that moment that is feeling very difficult, because there's something about that acknowledgement and recognition that you're not necessarily sure if that energy is accessible to you. You're feeling some kind of deep potential spiritual connection to them. You're feeling that point of acknowledgement. You're recognizing that there's something in your own heart space that is calling you towards this energy right now, but you're not necessarily sure what to do with it, because there's something here that is showing that there's some kind of unhealed karmic energy here that needs to be repaired in order to move towards it at this time. And this could potentially be this moment that you are trying to identify in yourself at this moment, how to navigate your own fear in trying to repair it versus your own desire about coming into union. Because you realize and you recognize that something about this energy has effectively closed off to you. It's not as accessible. It's not as available. And if it desired partnership with you in the past, it's not necessarily going to be in a space or place where it's going to be very open and willing to allow you back in the present. And this is you effectively trying to navigate this as you go forward from this time. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between where were we here? Yeah, we had the 3 cards coming through here. Between our 5 of Pentacles in combination with our Lovers, in combination with the King of Swords in its reversal. This is some tricksy energy here. Not so much in partnership. In partnership, this is going to feel like masculine energy just taking a bit of a breather today. You're just knackered. Masculine's knackered. They've been doing a lot of work in the outside trying to get some things done. Masculine's feeling knackered. Feminine's like moving off, doing their own thing right now. Masculine's kind of like, you're both kind of a little triggered a bit. But the partnership supporting a space or place where these triggers can like be worked out in positive ways. Feminine, you're also potentially seeing this right now. You're feeling a little triggered, but again, you're giving masculine that space. Masculine and feminine energy that's coming into partnership at this time. This is what's creating the point, because what's allowing for the partnership, this opening, this revelation, this clearing up, is also extremely triggering. Feminine, you're looking at masculine and you're questioning their integrity based on what they've told you. You're like looking at this masculine and being like, wow, okay. masculine is feeling a little disempowered from how much they've opened up to you, and especially because I feel like this is a masculine now asking you to do in kind. So if they're asking that feminine, please remember that you asked that for masculine. Masculine and feminine right now, that is in separation. This is going to feel like the most difficult because, again, feminine right now is feeling a lot of feelings. Feminine energy is going through it. There's something extremely triggering right now about it. Feminine energy is feeling a lot of this frustration at play around a masculine energy that they wanted and desired union with. And something about that energy feels like it has let them down. That's where the abandonment wound is coming through right now. But feminine is trying to keep their focus and composure on moving towards energy that desires divine union. Masculine, again, two different sides of this right now. This is either you recognizing why a feminine energy is feeling like this to you, having to have that point of internal accountability, understanding exactly where it's coming from, feeling some of that guilt because you recognize to a certain extent this feminine energy feels like you effectively abandoned them. But again, also potentially utilizing this as a moment that you are trying to navigate your own wounds right now because there's something about partnership that you yourself now identify and recognize that you potentially flee from. For the other part of the masculine collective right now, this is a moment that you now want divine union, but you're afraid or concerned that it might not be accessible or available to you anymore. And this is also feeling like a point of some disempowerment or anxiety rising to the surface. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our King of Pentacles. We love to see this. In partnership right now, this is an exhausted but stable masculine. This could be a masculine energy just taking a bit of a breather today, feeling like a day has been like well done, allowing that security to come to the surface. Feminine, you could be seeing right now that the masculine's like a little exhausted, but they're creating this like supportive energy right now. So you're also like fostering that and continuing forward here. Even if you're feeling a little triggered, masculine and feminine energy that it's moving into partnership right now. This is the masculine trying to again affirm and confirm to the feminine energy that they're trying to build something stable at this time. This could even be masculine energy trying to admit and clarify to the feminine the reason that they're willing to be this open right now is because masculine is willing to walk away from some things right now in order to move towards a partnership. So this could be a masculine that, again, is trying to explain to the feminine that that openness was specifically so there could be a path away from things so that they could build something more stable going forward. Feminine, you could be seeing and experiencing this right now from the masculine in this capacity. That there is something here where the masculine has effectively made themselves very vulnerable, but they're trying to affirm that they're willing to move away from anything that doesn't make you comfortable or needs adjustments or accommodations. And this is also making it feel like there is something here that could move forward in a functional way because it's showing that the masculine is concentrating on stability at this time. Masculine and feminine energy in separation at this time, this is a bit more of a trigger point because again, feminine energy, you are feeling the frustration, the anger rising to the surface yesterday and today, potentially around situations or circumstances where you feel masculine energy was not moving in a space or place of integrity, may have even kind of misled you as to their own desire for divine partnership. And again, you are navigating this trigger by focusing on a manifestation of masculine that actually wants the same things you do. That point of stability is what is building you towards that point of not going back to situations of masculine that has shown in some way, shape, or degree that they feel that they have let you down. Masculine, you're effectively seeing this right now in the feminine energy. If this is something that you saw that you walked away from, that they wanted that deeper commitment, you're seeing the fact that they recognize exactly what's happening. There's something here where, again, you're having to face your own anxieties and doubts and fears in some capacity as it relates to partnership. Maybe even having to hold some accountability towards what feminine has been saying to you about their own feelings of being misled. This is potentially a moment where, again, for half of the masculine energy, there's a point of feeling a lot of anxiety, frustration, guilt, having to face that. But if this is masculine energy that's choosing to move away or still dealing with their own anxieties and doubts and fears as it relates to divine union, this is you almost building the sense, this building back into yourself right now. This commitment and decision to only build for yourself in this moment. The difference here for the masculine doing it is you've got complete clarity and transparency. That this may have something to do with your own issues around partnership that need to be worked on or corrected. So this is productive and positive because it's almost the masculine seeing their own abandonment wound coming into play here. The other part of the masculine collective right now, this is a moment that you may now be identifying that there's something that you want to move back towards. You just don't know if they want you to move back towards them. There may be something here that you feel the anxiety that needs something that needs to be corrected for. That there's something here that you now understand why that energy was the way they were, how things were left. Your perspective on things has changed, and the anxiety right now is how to overcome the fact that potentially even some of this energy that you left behind in the past may have felt or recognized abandoned by you. And this is that moment that you're trying to effectively try to understand and ascertain, is there some way you can come back towards that energy to show them that you are now stable, to show them that you are ready to do this work, to show them that you are effectively ready to do the thing that they were effectively asking you to do from the start. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Three of Cups and our Two of Wands in its upright. So again, feminine and masculine in partnership right now. A lot of kind of positive coming through, a little bit of easement, doing the things that you enjoy doing, making the plans that you want to make. This is just the partnered energy, kind of like moving into like a vibe energy later today. Just kind of enjoying oneself and the possibilities as you proceed forward. Maybe even making some plans right now for happy occasions coming up. Masculine and feminine energy moving into partnership at this moment. This is potentially having to take some accountability and acknowledgement of some of the outside energy around you right now and discussing what you're going to do about it. What's the plan from here? While for masculine and feminine energy and separation, the feminine energy and separation, this is feminine energy continuing to distract yourself, not going back to masculine energy that you feel did not come towards you from a point of integrity. As you start building new communication, new plans going forward from here, getting a lot of outside support in the process, potentially around like friends, family, etc. Masculine energy right now that is in this modality. This is either masculine choosing to remain autonomous at this moment, or masculine energy that is now moving away from something to come into partnership with another energy. This is either the masculine energy right now. Again, if this is a point of solitude, this could be a moment of distraction right now. This could even be reaching out to other energy around you to see what they're doing, because you're trying to get your mind off of things. Now, masculine energy, though, that is trying to move back towards an energy of feminine. This is going to feel like this moment right now where you're trying to ascertain where this energy is. Who is around them? This is a masculine energy doing a lot of like investigation right now, potentially towards a feminine, to try to ascertain if their own ability to come towards them is going to be possible or not. May I please have one card to clarify? Come out. Okay, you want to come out? Come out. All right. Sun in its reversal. So, masculine and feminine energy in partnership right now. This is why we see that there's some of this planning that's effectively happening right now, because we're seeing that, like, while there are some circumstances or situations right now that like are demanding your attention, it's almost coming through. And this is more of that withdrawal energy that we've been seeing for the energy in partnership at this time. This is more, we just keep seeing this. This is masculine and feminine energy in partnership, like pulling their own energy back. Because while there may be some like energy right now in terms of like things that are feeling more productive, or feeling more, fun. There's so much work right now needing to be done in the productive spaces that there's almost a point right now that the energy is withdrawing from anything that doesn't feel like it's more in a practical capacity right now, because there's so much focus in the partnership right now on the spaces and places that need this point of practical energy. Masculine's exhausted to a certain extent, very much focused on building stability at this time. So this could even be bowing out of some set of circumstances and situations right now, or again, feeling the frustration of an obligation, something that one needs to do but might not necessarily want to do right now, because it feels like it's a bit of a distraction point for both energies in partnership. For masculine and feminine energy that is moving into partnership right now, this is feeling the anxiety of the outside energy. Because as we saw, there's something about both energies being open and expressing what is effectively happening around them at this time. It's bittersweet. It's bittersweet. You're gonna have to let some people down is almost what it's saying. It's almost like the conversation is, well, I guess you're gonna have to let some people down, aren't you? Because while there may be an observation in terms of all the other energy around someone at this time, this is that moment of potentially having to say, like, okay, you need to like let this go, let that go, let this go, let that go. And this could be like trying to make sure that that work is effectively occurring right now if you're moving into partnership, or at least clarifying where you are to a certain extent. Now, for masculine and feminine energy that is in separation, this is that moment that, again, feminine energy is feeling. Feminine energy, I gotta stress, this is very hard for the feminine energy in separation. Feminine energy did not want to have to move forward in this way. Feminine energy wanted to come into divine union potentially with masculine energy that moved in the other direction. Feminine energy is effectively trying to distract themselves, trying to build these plans, starting to communicate again, but it's not a happy space to be. This isn't where feminine wanted to be. This isn't where feminine desired to be. That's why we see so much frustration on the part of the feminine right now. There's a lot of reactivity, you know? Now, masculine, this is potentially, if, again, two different sides of the masculine modality right now, if you are in separation. There's the masculine energy right now that has made this point of recognizing that you want to keep and maintain your own autonomy at this time. But even so, you're recognizing your own doubts and fears as it relates to partnership at this moment. This is that moment that, again, you may be looking right now and seeking outside energy. But the problem here is this may now be a point that you are also seeking energy that is also not seeking divine union. This may be what you've tried to tell yourself that you're going to do at this point to like come into a point of easement. The problem is you don't know how to do that. You don't know how to do that. You're feeling to a certain extent that that's probably not something that it feels very doubtful because you're feeling the anxiety about whether that's something, again, about moving with energy that's only invested in like enjoyment as opposed to union is feeling like something that is going to be kind of difficult to do. But there's almost like a commitment here to see if you can do it is what's happening, though you're feeling a little anxiety about it in the process. This could be that work right now of doing that internal point and not wanting to let someone down in the same capacity that you've been letting people down. Now having to have a point of accountability on it. The other part of the masculine collective right now, this is effectively you trying to move towards a feminine energy right now. This is effectively you trying to move towards a feminine energy right now. You're trying to look around at that energy to understand if there is some possibility. The problem with this is, again, this is an energy that you left in the past. There's obviously people around them right now. There's obviously other energy. And what you're seeing right now is probably making you feel super doubtful because you're not sure. Because not only are we seeing the fact that you see that this feminine energy, you didn't necessarily leave it in a positive place, but you're also seeing that they've got a lot of positive energy around them in the process. So this is you effectively trying to decide or determine how to communicate, if it's possible to communicate, feeling some degree of like sadness or frustration as you do so. You know, this is going to feel like a little bit of this like gut sink today when you're like, oh no, you know? Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Two of Wands in combination with our High Priestess energy. So, masculine and feminine energy in partnership right now. This is just beautiful. Again, feminine energy, masculine energy. There's some triggers that were hit maybe even yesterday. Masculine was in a little bit of an overwhelm. Feminine's just kind of like rising above it, you know? Masculine appreciates that feminine can do this right now because this is a feminine that doesn't necessarily like, you know, this is like an autonomous feminine. This is a feminine that like has the ability to like navigate things on their own, even in a partnership, and masculine appreciates that. And there's potentially a lot of work that you're both having right now in terms of how to communicate and how to plan going forward in this way. Feminine energy is also potentially lending their insight to masculine in this capacity as well. Masculine and feminine energy. Feminine, you're seeing that fact that there's this ability in this, there's like planning happening in the partnership. And even that's building your own level or degree of security in terms of staying in this vibration. This is a feminine energy not being triggered in partnership, even as a trigger is being hit. Masculine and feminine energy moving into partnership right now. This is masculine watching to see if feminine energy can keep a clear head as they open up about stuff, to see if they are accessible and available to like find that productive path forward. Masculine was watching the feminine to effectively be like, are you cool? Are you cool with it being open in this way? Are you cool with me admitting these things to you? And feminine is effectively trying to maintain a point of coolness, but also being like, well, what are you going to do going forward from here? Now, masculine and feminine energy that are not in partnership. This is that moment that we see, again, feminine energy is basically going cold on masculine. If the masculine, this is the feminine energy that's just maintaining a point of logic and thinking about their plans going forward. Feminine energy staying very, very, very fixated on not going back to masculine energy that showed this lack of degree of integrity at this time. That's how feminine energy is healing from this. Feminine energy is feeling, letting that like, almost like that, I'm feeling like this frustration, this anger, the accountability of feeling like the possibility of divine union was floated but was never effectively something that was going to be a reality. That's what's navigating the feminine energy forward from this point and effectively allowing them to do so with so much like speed, if you will, as difficult as this is for the feminine energy to do. While for the other part of the collective right now, for masculine in separation, this is again either one of two different modalities that's effectively coming into play. This is the masculine energy effectively looking right now and recognizing their own need or degree or desire to want to maintain a point of autonomy. They're looking potentially, masculine solution to this, if this is the case, is looking for other feminine energy that they feel also desires and maintains that point of autonomy. That's how masculine's trying to like overcome this. If the masculine is choosing autonomy right now, they're trying to see if there's other feminine energy that's also in that vibration. That's what they're effectively seeking. Like a feminine energy that doesn't want a romantic relationship or is only in a space or place. You know, that's the problem right now for masculine. It's like trying to find this right now feels like it is very difficult. Now, the other part of the masculine collective right now, this is effectively you wanting to go back to a feminine energy. You moved away from a partnership possibility. You want to go back to a feminine energy. You're recognizing the fact that this feminine energy may not necessarily want to communicate with you, may be in this point of blockage. You may not necessarily left things in a good space with this feminine energy. Feminine energy's got a lot of new energy around them. There's a lot of productivity around that. And you're seeing it right now. You're trying to identify and articulate because you realize that this is something that you have to open the door back on. That not only is this like, this can almost be feeling somewhat intimidating here, because while you're very much drawn towards this energy right now, you also recognize that you're going to have to be very open. You're going to have to be very upfront. You're not going to be in a space or place where you can play games with this type of energy. This is something where you're going to have to be like fully in the clear. You're going to have to be completely open. Because this feminine energy is at a point that like you kind of recognize and identify that like there'll be a lot of explaining that needs to happen. May I please have one card to clarify? Thank you for the gift. Oh my God, I love that. Clarification coming through right now. Well, the big question here, the big question is easement. This is effectively going to feel a little bit, so this is good. In partnership right now, this is great. There's something here that partnership, the reason the masculine values this feminine so much around partnership, in partnership, is that feminine energy doesn't make things more complicated. They're trying to make things as easy as possible. Masculine may even appreciate this right now around the feminine energy. That like feminine's creating the space or place for masculine to make these plans, to have these possibilities at play. Masculine's recognizing feminine's ability to do this, and it's almost further empowering and securing the partnership itself. masculine and feminine energy that's in this capacity and degree, you are also feeling the fact that like one of the things that you appreciate is this is a masculine energy that not only are they making plans, but they're making plans together. These are plans that you feel that they're immediately incorporating you in them. These are not isolated plans. This is also making the partnership easy because it feels like it's not oppositional to the partnership. It is allowing for that easement going forward. Masculine's immediately bringing you into their plans, and that is where the partnership is also being fortified. Masculine and feminine energy that is coming into union and partnership at this moment. This is that moment where, again, there's some kind of point that needs to be articulated in terms of identifying not just what has been revealed, but what is going to be done at this point. And it is how easily feminine's doing this to see how quickly masculine does it. Feminine's basically like, okay, you've told me that there's some outside energy around these things. You want to come back into partnership. I guess you're going to have some conversations with people soon. And if there's a point of resistance here, feminine's also utilizing that as a point of observation right now around the masculine to be like, okay, now that you've told me, what are you going to do about it? To see and ascertain masculine's own defensiveness in doing something or resistance. Masculine, you're effectively seeing this right now in the feminine as well. You're potentially doing this to the feminine as well too if they've opened up around things too. This is giving a lot of mirrored energy here. So this is both energies right now saying, how are we going to proceed and how quickly or how agreeable are you to doing that? And so for both energies, we see that is that combinate work that is also securing the possibility of partnership going forward. Now, for masculine and feminine energy right now in separation, this is feminine energy allowing a point of easement today. Not wanting, feminine energy is not going to fight to get into divine union with someone. This is why feminine energy is immediately casting their sights onward. This is that point of catharsis for the feminine. Feminine's basically saying, like, I'm not going to fight for something that someone should offer me. Something that someone should run towards me for is not something that I am going to effectively feel like I need to fight someone to achieve. And it's this point of catharsis that's also allowing a bit of logic for feminine, even though it is painful. Masculine, you are either again, you are moving right now from a state or space of autonomy. You're even recognizing your own anxieties and fears as it relates to partnership at this moment. You're potentially even looking right now, either again, you have full understanding. If a feminine energy opened up or let out on you, you potentially completely understand why. You completely almost see, like, again, as I said, I get why you're upset. I would be upset too. This is that moment that, again, masculine, you're potentially effectively continuing to choose your own autonomy at this moment, but it is feeling like a bit of a point of struggle here. Because what we're effectively seeing is, again, you're not necessarily sure what to do with this. You know, you're almost looking for like a feminine energy that will be okay with whatever you want to present them as it relates to like your lack of desire for divine partnership at this time. It's going to take a very logic-based feminine to a certain extent. And so this is that moment that you're also like trying to find a feminine that would be like accommodated or open to being in situations or circumstances that would not necessarily lead to partnership. That's difficult, is what we're effectively seeing, and you're effectively understanding that. The other part of the masculine collective right now, this is potentially a moment that you want to move back towards an energy and you know that it has to be you. There's even a moment right now where it's like you kind of recognize, like the point of recognition has to do with like effectively deciding if you were to communicate what the reception would be, whether it would be received in a positive way or if it's going to create a point of conflict. This is masculine effectively potentially even trying to figure out, like, what am I going to say to this feminine that isn't going to create more conflict? Because there is something here about feeling like the feminine energy, you have that observation point now as to why the feminine energy that you may be reaching out to in this way may be feeling a little closed off or a little upset. continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Two of Pentacles and our King of Pentacles. Masculine and feminine energy today, if you're going through this and in a partnership, this is just a lot of planning. Masculine's feeling like a bit of exhaustion, but they're just building the stability at the point, concentrating. Probably a lot of like staying home today is what we're almost getting, while making plans for the future, potentially even having plans coming up that you want to like just kind of ease back and relax today on. Feminine, you're potentially seeing this right now in the masculine energy, and you're potentially like, feminine actually might be more like at ease in terms of like going places and doing things right now than the masculine is a bit of the issue. Because feminine might be like proposing things to the masculine to see their own ability or desire to do so. For masculine and feminine energy right now that's moving into partnership, this is effectively saying like, well, what are you going to do from here? Masculine energy is potentially being called to task to like really affirm their own commitment to having these communications so that they can really kind of let everyone know where they are or where they stand. Now, feminine, you're effectively looking at the masculine to do this at this time. Masculine and feminine right now in separation. This is masculine, again, for the masculine that's choosing autonomy at this moment. This is potentially you kind of building back into yourself at this time while you're making plans for yourself going forward. Maybe even some travel here coming through. Masculine energy that is trying to come back into union with a feminine. This is trying to literally figure out the most stable thing you could say. This is literally trying to figure out something that you can say that isn't going to be triggering, but is going to be grounding. This is potentially you trying to like determine that right now, and also like trying to observe in the process as you do so. Feminine right now that is in this modality, masculine moving away from you, this is effectively you seeking out masculine energy with this point of stability. This is that point of feminine just setting their sights forward, concentrate on masculine that already shows that degree of stability, that has that desire for divine union. May I please have one card to clarify? Four of Swords. A bit of restive energy today. There's something here that does kind of require a point of rest. Now, for masculine and feminine energy right now in partnership, this may just be a lot of easement today. Taking things slowly, giving yourself, again, masculine's somewhat exhausted here. Feminine is potentially like, again, feeling like some frustration as it relates to planning or communication. This is that moment of just trying to like have some space to take some time to rest. There could even, again, be points right now of potentially planning vacations or some kind of restive activity that may be happening in partnership right now. For masculine and feminine energy that is moving into partnership right now, this is potentially this moment that there is a point of having to articulate to outside energies that things need to come to an end. There might be something here about saying like what needs to be communicated and what needs to be closed down, as it were, because there's been a lot of communication happening in these around all of the aspects of those relationships or all of the things that have been happening in the intervening time that are being addressed so that there can be that observation that that is something that is occurring and possible. Feminine needs this to see if the masculine is truly showing the degree and ability to want to build something stable with them. Masculine is effectively doing that right now to be able to articulate to the feminine that they can do that. Now, for masculine and feminine right now that is in separation, this is feminine energy giving yourself that space of peace, of rest. There's something here about taking this time for yourself right now as you set your sights on masculine energy that wants to be in stability, wants to be in union. You know, the problem is around some of this is there's a desire in the feminine that some of this masculine energy that moved away from them in this way or shape or form is going to change their mind. Feminine energy is holding out some kind of hope right now that the masculine that moved away from them is going to effectively change their mind and desire divine union. But feminine energy isn't necessarily letting that stop them right now as they continue forward at this point. Masculine, if you are in this moment right now, we are seeing again, this is either masculine energy choosing to maintain a space or place of autonomy at this moment. This could be feeling like a lot of this like rest that you're taking into account right now. You know, this is potentially looking right now around masculine energy to decide what that path for yourself is going forward. While also potentially, I'm even getting here that there might be some work right now for masculine energy that's choosing their own autonomy in terms of like making some plans for yourself to take yourself on vacation or something like that, potentially coming through. Like, it's almost like masculine being like, I need to get away from all of this for a bit. This is all too much, right? So this is how masculine's making themselves feel better at this point of autonomy right now. It's like taking themselves on a little trip. Now for the masculine energy right now that's trying to move back into partnership with feminine, this is that point of contemplation on how to do it. Because this is that moment that the masculine is looking at something that has gone dormant, that they recognize has gone dormant, to really ask themselves, how do I open this back up again in a way that isn't going to come across as a point of conflict? Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Sun in its reversal in combination with our Seven of Wands in its reversal. So, masculine and feminine energy right now that's in partnership. It's not that everything is perfect. There's some feelings of exhaustion. There's some feelings of even like some grief that's effectively being carried. There's some abandonment wounds. There's some triggers that are being triggered. There are triggers that occurred potentially yesterday. There are triggers that are occurring today. There's some challenges coming into the face of the partnership, maybe even from outside obligations affecting the ability to be present in the partnership. But again, trying to do everything one can to make things easy as possible as you go forward from this point, through any of these hurdles, through any of these adversities, is the benefit of the partnered energies. Masculine and feminine that's coming into partnership right now, mutual understanding that you're going to have to let some people down. There's a moment right now that could feel like a little frustrating because, again, having to let some people down in order to make things easier going forward. Like, it's going to require some people being disappointed around you even as you do it. It's not something that you're effectively looking forward to doing, but you also recognize you may need to do. Masculine and feminine energy in separation right now. This is feminine energy is feeling the frustration of not wanting to proceed forward in this way. This is feminine energy that feels forced right now to go forward on this. They wanted divine union with energy prior to this. It's the resistance of the masculine they're experiencing around this right now. Feminine energy is allowing themselves to feel that sense of sadness or frustration. But feminine is also confirming to themselves and reminding themselves that they do not need to, they cannot force, they do not want to force a divine union on someone who does not want to be with them. Masculine, that you're feeling this right now, again, if you chose autonomy at this moment, we are effectively seeing that you yourself are feeling some point of disappointment, of uncertainty, because something about the masculine that's choosing this, again, you've seen the pattern right now. You recognize the pattern that you found yourself in. You may even be asking yourself if you're putting off the inevitable, because there may be something for masculine right now that you're starting to recognize and appreciate, that if you continue to push off divine union to a certain extent, you're starting to feel like you might not necessarily ever move into divine union. You might just kind of be in this vibration indefinitely, because there's something here that you're identifying is getting harder to do, even for yourself. So this is that moment that, again, you're either coming to terms and accepting to yourself that you're okay being in solitude or in that point of autonomy, and you're just trying to find a way to have like a bit of easement in accepting and acknowledging that. Or for the other part of the masculine collective right now, this is that moment that you're potentially feeling that frustration because the reason you moved away from a partnership is because there's another person that you've decided you wanted that partnership with. And now is that question in terms of feeling that struggle point and that feeling of anxiety as to whether that's still going to be accessible and available to you. Because when it was, you were resistant to it. And now you're trying to find out if it's still something that is open and available to you, and you're feeling some anxiety that it might not be. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now. It's vulnerable. It's vulnerable. Now in partnership, this vulnerability is positive. In partnership, being able to be in this space of place of vulnerability is the gift of the partnership. You don't feel like you have to have your guard up all the time. You can just be vulnerable. You can be yourself. You can even have moments where you express your own sadness and grief and fear, and you're getting the positive support in the partnership as you do so. Okay? Now, for masculine and feminine energy that is working towards partnership at this time, this is that moment that, again, it's feeling very difficult because the work and what you're revealing to each other is very vulnerable. And it's not necessarily the most positive things to find out. But you're allowing this to be a moment that you're giving this space and place to do so as the confirmation that there's a possibility here, because there isn't any resistance being experienced in doing this work. Masculine, feminine energy that is in separation right now, this is that moment that feels very difficult because you are feeling both. And I need to stress a lot of the feminine energy in separation today. I want you to put a lot of care at the self because you're feeling the vulnerability and the sadness. And there's something here that you don't necessarily, you want to make easier. You don't necessarily want to have to go forward in this way. You just wish that something was available to you. And we see here that, again, your confirmation and affirmation to yourself that you don't want to have to fight for something doesn't mean it doesn't hurt anymore that it isn't available to you. It just makes it feel more painful that is the case, hence the abandonment wound getting triggered. Now, masculine energy that's in separation right now, if you're choosing to stay and remain at a point of autonomy, it's feeling not as great as it previously felt. Because there's something here that feels like it is getting more difficult to maintain that position. And it's making you feel the combination of anxiety and potential uncertainty about what that future looks like. Because there's some kind of feeling of recognizing that, like, you may have to continue to go it alone. Now, for the other part of the masculine collective, if this is you effectively moving right now towards a specific manifestation of feminine, this is that moment that is so difficult because something about moving towards this feminine energy, you're feeling the weight of the anxiety about your own sadness around it. You're also feeling the vulnerability and recognizing how vulnerable it's going to take to be able to have to go towards the feminine in this way. Because it's like more about trying to ascertain. It's not just that you want to move towards them right now. You're trying to ascertain how it's going to be accepted. If it's going to be something that's welcomed, or if it's going to be something that is resisted. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Seven of Wands and its reversal in combination with our Four of Swords. So, partnered energies, this is potentially like a day of easement, a day of rest, trying to make things as easy as possible, giving you guys yourselves the space to rest today. Rest is really coming through as key for today for partnered energies. Masculine and feminine energy moving into partnership right now. This is potentially a moment that we're identifying that, like, you want to see how quickly someone is willing to close something down. Because for those energies, there could be a point of mutual accountability on what is happening around them as you move into partnership, that you're now saying, well, I guess you got to close that up. I guess you got to close this up if we're going to be able to move forward in this way. While for masculine and feminine energy that is in separation, this is feminine energy taking some time for self-care today. This is feminine energy potentially, feeling some point of exhaustion right now. And again, almost hoping, maintaining some hope that the masculine energy, even if they're mad at them, even if they're feeling a lot of this like aggression towards them for making this choice away from them, there's a part of feminine energy that's feeling the frustration and hoping that the masculine energy changes their mind. But also affirming and confirming to themselves that they're not going to chase after it. While for the masculine energy that's effectively in this modality right now, again, if you are choosing your own autonomy at this moment, you could be feeling somewhat exhausted. You could be feeling a moment right now that you just need a lot of rest at this time. You could be very like moving through this space or place that like something is getting harder to maintain in this modality energetically, because, you know, it's not even a fact right now. It's like almost like feeling some point of like, it's like recognizing right now that this point of autonomy is becoming, it's not necessarily one that like, it's not like I'm getting here. It's not that the energy is fighting to come get you. It's that you're getting that point of isolation instead. You're seeing it happen. Like it's not necessarily working in the same way that it did prior, which is requiring a point of adjustment and recalibration. Now for the masculine energy right now that is choosing to try to come into partnership with the feminine that they're not necessarily in contact with, this is the moment that the masculine is just is basically looking at something that has been dormant to try to understand and identify if it's going to be possible, how to open it, how to communicate around it, if this is something that's going to be approachable or not. May I please have one card to clarify? What? Really? 3? Okay. 3 cards to clarify. It's going to be one of these days. It's fine. Okay, so, all right. Clarification coming through. Wow, and we've got double 10 cards with the Hermit in its reversal. So no wonder we've got this coming through like this. Okay, because again, for masculine and feminine energy and partnership at this time, there's a point of easement that's coming in. You're just like enjoying some point of easement today. Because again, there's been some kind of mutual work in terms of things that you need to do right now, or things that need to be like resuscitated, you know? This is again, this has been like laying that path moving forward that we saw, you know, while also having to deal with some things that are still open-ended coming to the surface. So there's a lot right now for the partnered energies that is just requiring this moment that it's hard because like, again, it's almost like the partnered energies are feeling that anxiety or needing some more isolation. It's almost like needing that point of solitude and not finding it right now, which is why like I love this, because some of the energy right now is effectively moving away from the partnership right now to find solitude, going somewhere else outside of the partnership to get solitude because they just need a little bit of space. While other parts right now are bringing up some things in the past, potentially like past hobbies, past habits, to like also like create a space or place of solitude. This is like, again, energy that's like doing things on their own right now, but that doing them things on their own is to like find that solitude because there's a trigger point that's requiring a little bit of space. Now for masculine and feminine energy right now that's moving into partnership, this is that make or break point. This is looking right now at the energy that's been effectively revealed. There's something here that is like, okay, it's great that you told me everything that's going on. What are you going to tell them? What are you going to tell the outside energy around you? Are you going to tell them that things are over, that you're moving on, that you have to move on so that we can start things up again? Like that's effectively what is happening right now with the partnered energies. That's giving the confirmation that there's a path forward. Now for the energies in separation for feminine right now, this is feeling like this point of just absolute frustration, potentially if you're in separation right now. Because again, you are moving on. You are committed to moving on. You are feeling the frustration in the solitude. You don't like the fact they're moving on. You don't like the fact that you're doing it yourself. You are not finding solace in solitude right now. You're feeling frustration. And you're really hoping that something from the past comes back. You're almost hoping that this masculine energy is going to give some indication of having changed their mind, give some indication that they do want to move into union, that they do want to move into partnership. So this is a lot of that conflict energy that we're effectively seeing right now that the feminine is experiencing. Now for masculine energy, if you're in separation right now, this is that moment that, again, if you are choosing your own sense of autonomy right now, you're feeling a little called out for it. There's something that you are observing right now that you're recognizing is getting harder around this. That maintaining your autonomy is something that is becoming more and more difficult. And you're almost potentially seeing a cycle that's effectively happening right now that is requiring you to move to like rotate through things much faster than you did previous. That is what's creating some of this frustration point for you, masculine, because you're recognizing right now that this choice to stay in solitude may not necessarily be a temporary condition. It may be something that you're kind of putting yourself in indefinitely based on staying and maintaining this cycle. Now, masculine energy that is moving right now towards feminine, this point of acknowledgement right now, this understanding of wanting to come into union with feminine right now. This is that moment that you are also feeling this point of deep frustration, because what we're really identifying right now is you are also, this is potentially masculine energy that realizes that you didn't move away from partnership because you don't want partnership. You moved away from partnership because you know now what or who you want to be in partnership with. And this is that moment that now it's more about trying to get the insight and the clarity to figure out how to move towards them, how to bring something back. You're committed. You're committed here. Your path is here. You're like, this is what I'm going to do. It's more about this moment that we're seeing here that you're trying to figure out, how do I do it? What do I need to know? What clarity do I need to try to bring this back? Final cards for today's spread. A lot of vulnerable energy today. Everyone be very careful and calm with yourself today. Masculine and feminine energy that is in partnership right now. This is just a point of easement. This is potentially feeling some need for some private or alone time. Not necessarily experiencing that so much in the partnership, trying to potentially find it in other areas and opportunities right now. But the partnership itself allows for that space or place, either like in other spaces where, like, again, it's interesting, you're like moving to those spaces to find that solitude, or rekindling past things to find that point of solitude. It's like almost finding yourself again in the relationship, a desire not to lose oneself in the relationship. Energies right now that are in partnership or moving towards partnership, this is that moment of seeing where the vulnerabilities lie in terms of potentially asking energy to do something, close things out, to see if that's something that they can effectively do, or if this is showing some like level or degree of like unavailability, not something that's going to happen. You know, this is that make or break point again that's happening again in those energies moving towards partnership, because this is almost now like saying, thank you for telling me everything about what's going on. What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? What is going to be moved away from? What is going to be closed off? What are you going to tell others so that we can see this possibility going forward? Masculine, feminine energy in separation right now, this is a lot of that anxiety coming into play, because we really see that there's something here that makes you feel extremely vulnerable right now. Because while we see that you're moving forward right now, it's not something you desire to do. And you're really, really hoping that masculine is going to come back and effectively change their mind on something. But you're also committed not to chase after them to get them to. Masculine right now, if you are in separation, again, this is that point of observation on the vulnerability of one's own solitude. There's something about the choice of making and staying in a point of solitude and autonomy right now that you're now recognizing is feeling somewhat cyclical. It's putting you in a state or space that feels rather vulnerable. And it's creating some point of observation right now in terms of how you choose to proceed from this point. And this could feel very difficult right now, because some of the solitude that you were seeking, that you potentially maybe argued to feminine was the whole reason that you didn't want to be in partnership, isn't necessarily feeling very cozy, comfy for you today. It's potentially feeling like the opposite, because like you're seeing it to a certain extent. You're potentially seeing your own patterns. You're seeing your own cycles. You know, you're recognizing that this might not necessarily be an outside person issue. This might be an internal person issue, your own self. While for masculine energy right now, that made the choice to move away from an opportunity of partnership because there's a focus on an individual person, this is that moment that you're really struggling to identify how to do that. This is that moment that you're confirming and affirming to yourself that you almost, the masculine, kind of saying like there's no way you can't do it. Like there's something here about having to take this option, having to do this for yourself, because not doing it is creating too much of this feeling of solitude for you at this time. The problem is how to approach it. Final card for today's spread. Offers, opportunities being presented fully, just forward. Here it is. Now, it's going to have a lot of difference depending on where you are in this collective. In partnership, this is masculine energy and feminine. Like masculine energy, again, feminine energy is going through some stuff right now that's requiring them to go through a lot of vulnerability. Feminine energy is even feeling some anxiety in terms of like their own point of solitude. There may be some things from the past around feminine that are rising to the surface, but feminine's committing on going forward. Masculine's basically like, how can I help you? Even in partnership right now, the fact that feminine appreciates this is not the fact that like, you know, things aren't easy, but it's a masculine that like constantly shows up and shows support to the feminine, even as they're going through difficult cycles. Masculine, you may also be feeling this right now. You may be recognizing and feeling right now that while there is some point of like mutual frustration that's potentially happening right now in some partnership stuff, as it relates to like outside obligations from the past, things that need to be addressed, it's almost like reaffirming your own commitment to things. You know? It's like you kind of recognize right now that that's the solution to this. You're like putting the effort in. You're like recognizing that your investment to those things is your confirmation of the strength of the partnership at this moment. Masculine and feminine energy that's coming into partnership right now, this is masculine energy doing this for the feminine. This is feminine saying, well, again, thank you for telling me these things. If you want to move forward, you're going to have to do these things. You're going to have to like close these things down. I need to see some point of activation happening in terms of what you've told me and how you choose to proceed forward. And masculine's like, whatever you need. Absolutely. Because masculine is recognizing that that is what's going to bring the divine union into play. It's not just the opening, but it's also showing that they're willing to do this work to let others know that they're in this space and place. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is in separation, this is going to feel a lot different, because what we're really identifying right now is, again, for the masculine energy, for the feminine energy right now, this is that confirmation, that is that double affirmation to oneself that we are seeing about the fact that for the feminine in this vibration, there's a moment that, again, while you are feeling this level and degree of vulnerability, you're feeling the pain of being at a point of solitude and not wanting to be at a point of solitude. You're doing the work necessary to move forward from this point. You are also feeling the desire or hope that masculine's going to come back or come forward in some fashion. And it is that desire and hope which is also what's empowering you at this time, because again, masculine energy is in a modality where they recognize that the only thing that could effectively fix this is if masculine energy comes forward in this way. That's why feminine energy is holding their ground on this. They're not chasing after the masculine, because it wouldn't necessarily fix this. Feminine is recognizing the only way that the masculine can come forward and show the ability to come into divine union is if masculine is able to come towards feminine and say, I would like divine union with you. I would like a relationship. I would like this. I would like to make this a thing. They have to come forward with this commitment. So feminine is effectively giving themselves that point of consolation on this, even if it's difficult. Masculine, if you are in separation right now, again, this is either you doubling down on your own self right now, potentially even feeling at this moment that there's a bit of this restart that you're giving yourself, but it's very hard because you're feeling, you potentially like ran off from something. You ran off from some partnership opportunity, and now you're recognizing that like it has more to do with your own fears and anxieties as it relates to partnership. There's that point of observation. It's not even that you're getting the satisfaction in that solitude you created for yourself right now. You're just realizing how vulnerable you are when it comes to partnership and your anxieties around it. And this is you effectively just putting your energy right now and trying to figure out how you're going to go forward from this point, understanding what you understand, potentially even adjusting and recalibrating what you offer feminine so that you don't necessarily find yourself in this same cycle again. Well, for the masculine energy right now, that you effectively moved away from a partnership because of a deeper understanding that there is something else or someone else you want right now, this is that moment that we're effectively seeing that you are putting you're trying to get your own vulnerability up. You're trying to decide how to come forward with this offer. You're trying to identify what that looks like, how you're going to present it towards situations and circumstances that you want to bring new life into. Bottom of the deck for this reading right now is Seven of Pentacles. This card keeps showing up right now. There is a feeling or frustration as it relates to time. Anxiety on time. Anxiety on how long things take. Feminine energy is at a point, we keep seeing, does not want to wait too long. Feminine energy is trying to utilize time to their advantage right now. Even in partnership, we've been seeing the fact that masculine and feminine are pulling their obligations away from certain things simply because they feel like they don't have enough bandwidth at this time. Masculine and feminine, this is that dual work that you're doing right now to determine where you can get some of your own time back. Because masculine and feminine partnership right now are feeling overtasked by outside circumstances or situations. Masculine and feminine energy that is coming into partnership, this is a requirement right now to come into a union. There is a point of observation saying if you want to come into union, you've got way too many things open-ended around you right now. You got to close them up. You got to close them up. I got to see you close them up. You got to show me they're closing them up. And that's what's allowing for the divine unions to come through. Now, for the masculine and feminine energy and separation, this is feminine energy saying, I am not waiting. Feminine energy does not feel like they have time to wait. Feminine energy desires a masculine energy to come forward with an offer. But feminine energy is effectively saying that they will be damned. They will be damned if they will wait around for the masculine to decide. Feminine energy is moving forward. And what the masculine chooses to do, well, that's where the masculine is going to find the feminine right now. Masculine, for your part, this is a potential feeling right now about your own sense of time as well. For the masculine energy, again, who's chosen their own autonomy right now at this moment, there potentially is a question about how much longer you can stay in that space or place of autonomy. It may take some point of adjustment. While for the masculine energy right now that is trying to move back towards a feminine, we find ourselves in a bit of a cycle here. Because this is the masculine energy coming right back full circle and realizing that if you come towards the feminine energy that you left in this capacity and this degree, you are going to have to explain to them what has been happening in the intervening time. Because that is the feminine coming exactly back to where we found the first wave of this effectively happening, which is feminine saying, why now? Why now? That is our daily collective read for today. I want to thank you guys so much for being here and experiencing this message. Just a reminder, if you would like to book a private reading with me, you can book one on my website, graystrega.com. My private readings are done over video, and if you are a subscriber to my TikTok, you can take 10% off any of my services when you pay. Just mention your subscriber ID at the point of payment. Please keep in mind that if you book a reading, it is a two-step process. You have to book the reading and you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you'd like to have that reading. Most importantly, please remember that I will never, ever, 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 ever reach out to you for a private reading. I will never inbox you. I will never PM you. I will never slide into your DMs and tell you that I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my website. So I encourage you to do it there. I want to thank you guys so much for being here with me today and sharing with me in these readings. And we will do this again tomorrow.